Free speech wars on British university campuses. My experience. I got a taste of free speech wars on British university campuses in 2016 at Canterbury Christchurch University. I was invited to speak on an LGBT plus panel alongside other activists, including the National Union of Students LGBT plus officer Fran Cowling. I accepted the invitation, but she refused to participate if I was on the panel. Now, some people interpreted her reaction as a de facto ultimatum. Choose him or me. In other words, her tactic looked like an indirect bid to get me disinvited, and effectively no platformed by the university. I was perplexed by her refusal, but of course defended her right to not speak. Eventually, sometime later, I was informed about her reasons. She claimed, without any evidence, that I was racist and transphobic. Typical of the smears that are thrown about by some people to discredit political opponents when they cannot defeat them by other means. I sent Fran Cowling an amiable email seeking a dialogue. She refused to reply. I followed up by asking her to explain why she said I was racist and transphobic, and to give me examples. Again, she blanked me, and then blocked me online, presumably because she could not substantiate her allegation. It was, after all, a complete fabrication. Moreover, Cowling claimed in an email to the university that by not sharing a platform with me, she was acting on behalf of the National Union of Students membership, who she said believed me to be racist and transphobic. Well, I challenged the NUS over when this decision was taken by the membership and why I was not allowed to defend myself before a vote was taken. Reluctantly and belatedly, they conceded that National Union of Students members had never decided against me. At this point, I discovered that Cowling had made the same defamatory allegations about me to others. With my private overtures to her being rebuffed, I then went public to criticize her baseless slurs. Not just for my sake, but hopefully to deter her and fellow NUS officials from making false allegations against other people. Cowling and her allies responded by going on the counterattack, claiming that my 3 polite emails amounted to harassment and that I had bullied and outed her, despite the fact that she had outed herself in the media years beforehand, and that she held the self-outing position of National Union of Students LGBT plus officer. I was then denounced for having ruined the life of a vulnerable young woman. When I challenged about the lack of evidence, some of Cowling's supporters reported that I was, quote, playing establishment politics and trying to deflect her criticisms against me. Further pressed, some claimed that I was racist because of my campaigns against President Mugabe's tyranny in Zimbabwe and against Jamaican reggae and dancehall singers who incited the murder of LGBT plus people. They said this was racist. As for the allegations of transphobia, apparently it was because I signed a letter to the Observer newspaper which, while not supporting trans-critical feminists, opposed violent and intimidating tactics against them. So I was not in any way in this letter endorsing any form of discrimination against trans people. The letter was simply a defense of free speech and opposing intimidation and violence, as I have done so for many, many years. Now, this saga is symptomatic of the decline of free and open debate on some university campuses in the UK, and the parallel rise of a witch-hunting, accusatory atmosphere. To marginalise and defeat critics, there is increasing resort to deliberately damaging allegations, frequently without a shred of evidence to back them up. While the prevalence of such tactics has been exaggerated by some right-wing commentators, the fact that they exist at all is a worrisome signal about the current state of some student politics. I am a passionate defender of free speech. Universities should be places where ideas can be contested and debated. Bad ideas are most effectively countered and debunked by good ideas, backed up with evidence, logic, and ethics, not by crude bans or censorship. It is true that university no platform and safe space policies often have honourable intentions to protect the weak and the vulnerable, the marginalised, from intimidation and exclusion, to enable their participation and their voices to be heard. I applaud that. The problem is the sometimes sweeping draconian way in which these policies are interpreted and enforced. Ways which inhibit free speech and censor legitimate opinions. Now, I want to add that defending free speech does not mean allowing bigotry to pass unchallenged. It should always be countered and protested. The most effective way to do this is by exposing bigoted ideas in open debate and thereby winning public opinion to oppose them. No platforms, bans and censorship suppress bigotry but fail to expose and refute it. Freedom of speech is one of the most precious of all human rights. A free society depends upon the free exchange of ideas, even ideas that some people may find disagreeable. But some students justify no platform and safe space policies in the name of not causing offence. You can't say that, it's offensive, they say. However, nearly all ideas are capable of giving offence to someone. Many of the most important ideas in human history, such as those of Galileo Galilei, Karl Marx, Charles Darwin, Mary Wollstonecraft, Harriet Tubman, and Sigmund Freud, caused great offence in their time. There is no right to not be offended, whether on a university campus or indeed anywhere else. There are, in my view, normally only 3 legitimate grounds to restrict free speech. First, when someone makes false, damaging, harmful allegations, such as that a person is a rapist or a tax fraudster. Second, when they engage in threats, menaces, or harassment. And third, when they incite violence. So I agree with no platforming, racist, anti-Muslim, Jew-hating, misogynistic, and anti-LGBT plus threats, harassment, and incitement to violence. That is legitimate. These abuses of free speech intimidate and exclude people on the receiving end, thereby diminishing open, inclusive debate. If you're facing threats, intimidation, and menaces, you're not going to participate. And that means debate is marginalized. Debate is diminished. Students are right to want to hold these abuses to account. They're right to want to halt these abuses, especially where student safety and well-being is genuinely at risk. However, in 2016, a survey found that 63% of UK university students support the National Union of Students having a no platform policy. 63%. Controversial and disputed analysis published in 2017 by Spiked magazine claimed that nearly 64% of universities actively censor speech, and nearly 31% stifle speech through excessive regulation. Now, this sounds very alarming, but in many cases, the restrictions were minor and they did not actually diminish the free exchange of ideas. Indeed, subsequent reports in 2018 by the BBC and by a parliamentary committee of members of parliament suggested that the limits on free speech in universities do exist, but they've been exaggerated. Now, the long-standing National Union of Students no platform policy includes only 6 openly racist or fascist organisations: Al Muhajirun, the British National Party, the English Defence League, Hizb ut-Tahrir, the Muslim Public Affairs Committee, and National Action. Those are the only ones on that no platform policy. But the policy has indeed been more widely interpreted by some student unions and societies, including eventually unsuccessful attempts to ban Nick Lowells, the director of the anti-racist group Hope Not Hate, over his opposition to far-right Islamists. Another victim was Maryam Namazi, the Iranian communist, feminist, and critique of Islamist fundamentalism. She critiqued Islamist extremists who advocate the killing of Jews, ex-Muslims, blasphemers, LGBT plus people, and women who have sex outside of marriage. As a result, there have been attempts to ban her from some university campuses on the false grounds that she is Islamophobic. She is not anti-Muslim people. She is critical of Islamist extremism, a big difference. Now, when the attempts to ban her failed, she was shouted down by Islamist students at Goldsmiths College in London, who claimed that she was violating the university's safe space policy. A clear example of the way in which that policy was being abused. The policy of a safe space was never intended to inhibit legitimate debate. Its raison d'etre is commendably intended to ensure that students, including women and racial, sexual and gender minorities, are not victimized or overlooked in debates, that their voices are heard. But it too has been subjected to some excessive interpretations. At Edinburgh University in 2016, student Imogen Wilson was threatened with ejection from a student meeting after she raised her hand and shook her head in disagreement with a speaker. It was said that her actions violated the student union's safe space policy, which prohibited, and I quote, gestures that denote disagreement. Well, this is clearly an abuse and a restriction of free speech, an inhibition of free speech that is wholly unjustified. So in conclusion, as Rosa Luxemburg, John Stuart Mill, and Mohandas Gandhi, and many, many others have argued, freedom of speech means nothing if it doesn't exist for the person who thinks differently. Students, universities, and government ministers, please take note. Free speech is a precious human right that must be defended. Thank you.